Video is about reasoning, or actually the lack of reasoning. And y- whenever you notice a friend making a really bad decision that you can't understand, and um, you're trying to put yourself in their place, a lot of times the reason for that is because we use our own mindset to evaluate somebody else. And we fail to account for um, some some lack of reasoning, because we think that person is reasoning and it must be obvious, but they're really not. So I'll show you how to model that. We'll use Aesop's fable, The Fox and the Grapes, as an example. Let's just play this for a second. So this example is illustrating cognitive dissonance, and that's a fundamental principle of psychology. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Um, when we use these models, what we want is to use just a little simple arithmetic. And to get our results, we just add and subtract a couple of things. So the initial perceived truth from the fox was that he could easily get the grapes. And, he didn't measure it or use any kind of evidence or any kind of reasoning. And for that, and because of that, um, he was really suffering from a confirmation bias. So some people might measure how far it is, but in this case, that's not what happened. So if you're the kind of person that would measure and say, well, I can reach that or I can't, then you'd use evidence, like how far it is and how high you can jump. But in this case, the fox just doesn't care. He just wants the grapes, and any information that tells him not to do it, he's going to ignore. And any information like his feelings or any indication that he could reach the grapes, he's going to accept that information and reject everything else. So when we look at the perceived fallacy, um, we might see that. We might understand that the fox can't get those grapes, but that doesn't enter into the fox's mind. The fox is not even going to consider what could be the problems, and he's just going to ignore them. All he knows is that he can reach those grapes, and any new information, he'll only accept the information that will support that. Now, you see that a lot in elections, like in the recent US presidential elections. Hillary Clinton was very logical, and she just didn't understand how angry voters were with the U.S. federal government, and Donald Trump really understood that well and really played into that. And all the convincing in the world just undermines your argument. If you don't have empathy for this kind of confirmation bias, you will just get the wrong answer. You just be completely misunderstanding people because they may not be logical like you. So um, that's the main part about modeling, is that you want to be able to not project yourself into what you're trying to understand. And so even though you might use evidence, let's give an example here. This is just arbitrary, um, but you might use evidence in your decision making, but someone else may not. And if you don't account for that, and if you don't realize that they're not processing any information that goes against what they want, then you'll really be seriously misunderstanding them, and it can have serious consequences. So I think that's enough for this lesson, and we might come back to this example again or this fable again later, but it's a really important concept, and I just kind of want to leave it there so it doesn't get diluted anymore.